And welcome into a happening edition of KC Sports Night here on a Monday where we have topics galore. We got, obviously, an incredible Chiefs win to talk about. We got some breaking news just minutes ago about Kansas City's top two favorite baseball player, either him or Salvador Perez. I don't know, top two. And we've got awesome college football on the local scene to talk about, and the Kansas City Current also get a win. So we're going to be talking about some fun stuff over the next 30 minutes. So thanks for hanging out with me, Jared Koller, and one of my favorite people here at Case5, Greg Dailey. Greg, you're pinch hitting for Gabe, who normally is in this spot.
Who are your favorite people here? Who is not on your list of favorite people here?
Neil Jones quite frequently makes me question things, and we'll keep it at that. So, no, but Greg, because he's a fellow Mizzou guy, and on this show we are going to talk a little Mizzou, so that's where I was glad to see you, or happy to say that, hey, you're willing to pinch it here. So we'll get to that, but let's start with the Chiefs, Greg, because there's a lot of different angles we could take out of this one. What are your headlines from Sunday's victory?
Well, regardless of a win or loss, you took away that the left tackle position is a problem.
Okay, that's where we're starting.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah, that's got to be where it starts. We saw on social media Donovan Smith with the, I'm kind of available tweet there. So, last year's left tackle.
Yeah.
But, man, Wanya Morris gutting out a fourth quarter. He's obviously injured, but Andy Reid going up to him and saying, we need you because Kingsley Suamataia is getting worked. The left tackle position, they can get by in the regular season. They've all but locked up a playoff spot already, which is crazy to say because we're halfway through the season. But you're going to play some good defensive ends and edge rushers in the playoffs. That's a position that's got to be shored up. Everyone was talking about how the defense really struggled in the first half, especially. But wow, that second half performance, they couldn't have played much better.
Didn't allow a point.
Yeah, I think. I think that the biggest takeaway has got to be left tackle, but it's going to be a grind the whole rest of the year. I mean, we thought and we had hoped that. With the addition of DeAndre Hopkins, that they were going to be, a little bit more of an explosive team on offense and maybe not explosive, but at least consistently get the ball down the field, which they've proven to do, just cannot capitalize in the red zone. And that showed again with, the missed touchdown to Kelsey, settling for Butker field goals.
That was more of the missed touchdown to Kelsey I see more as a fluke, not a cause for concern going forward now.
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. I don't think he misses that throw, that many times out of 100. But it's another time that you go to the red zone and don't come away with
offense
7.
wasn't good enough, and it's funny because I thought the eye test, Mahomes actually played really well with the exception of 2 throws. The deep ball to Xavier Worthy, which he missed, and then the wide open touchdown Travis Kelsey, which he missed. But, Greg, given the fact that Mahomes was running for his life for essentially the entire game, and the number of plays he made, now there's a lot of plays he didn't. He still got sacked a bunch, but there was a handful of plays that I'm like, I don't know many other quarterbacks in the league that can make that play, or at times if Patrick Mahomes can make that play, he did on Sunday. He was just good enough to win. So I do want to say that, but I also just want to, yes, it's ugly, but this team continuing to find a way to win ugly in games that I think I'm like, okay, here's the game they lose. I've said that almost every week, and in my mind I'm like, well, they might lose here.
Good teams find a way to win. Bad teams find a way to lose.
Right, and at some point we have to start saying this team is built for the mud. They're built differently, and it's not maybe as bad of a thing as the national haters want to say, or as maybe our stomachs and heart rates may say in the moment.
Yeah, I mean, Kansas City sports fans were spoiled there in the early Mahomes years of that offense with, the Legion of Zoom. It's not going to be the case.
Defenses weren't ready for that.
That's right. Now you see more and more teams have that kind of offense, so defenses are geared to stop the deep ball. But, I mean, that can happen when your quarterback isn't making, a lot of money from your salary cap, and now that Mahomes is getting paid and they've had to pay, Travis Kelce and Chris Jones, and obviously put some money into the offensive line. You're not going to have the breakout wide receivers. That's why they keep drafting them, and with the hope that can happen.
Guys. Yeah.
Right. But good teams do find a way to win, and the Chiefs are a really good team. I mean, how many times do we see on an NFL Sunday games decided by one score? It's not like the Chiefs are the only winning team that's winning by one score.
Right, and we've seen good teams lose those games.
Yeah, I mean, we saw yesterday the Texans intercept Jared Goff 5 times, and they still lost.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
And the biggest threat, the Bills, have lost 2 games. Right. We'll see next. So it's like, I think there's lots of areas that you can look at this game and look for improvement. But the fact that they were in a position to, it comes down at the end. This is the closest they've ever. I mean, well, what's less likely? I guess the Ravens are. But the Ravens, that touchdown, they still would have had to get the 2-point conversion. So I would say this is the closest they've come this year to losing. And the fact that they made another team, listen, a field goal in the NFL is not a guarantee. For as good as Harrison Butker is, kickers miss. Blocks don't happen very often, but it's still a variable. And so let's end on that, Greg. The block itself, because that will be a iconic Chiefs moment. Your thoughts when that happened and now marinating on Leo Chenal?
Yeah, I mean, we've known that Chenal has been an athletic freak for a long, long time.
Jumped up a bus.
That
video is coming up on KCTV5 at 6 o'clock.
It was. Yeah, it will. And, it was making the rounds on social media again yesterday. But, we heard them talk about it in the post game that they saw something and they exploited it a couple times, and every time the Broncos had a extra point or field goal opportunity yesterday, that side of the line got a little closer every time, and the Broncos didn't address it, and the Chiefs made them pay when the game mattered most. So that's great coaching. That's just a good player making a really, really good play. Mm-hmm. Takes all 3 facets of the game sometimes to win a football game, and special teams proved to do that yesterday. And
goes down to literally the final second. That's where the Chiefs play 60 minutes of a football game more than other teams, and they have that mental toughness too, even though in that last second to have the motivation, the intrinsic drive to come through in that moment, despite how they got to that point. We'll see what they have in store now when they head to Buffalo. We will talk about a heck of a rivalry game all week long here on KC Sports Tonight. We want to get to the breaking news. Bobby Witt Jr. officially just moments ago announced an MVP finalist in the American League.
Once again, Kansas City versus New York, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because he joins Aaron Judge and Juan Soto. They announced the top 3. Those are the finalists. And unfortunately, we expect Aaron Judge to ultimately win the award.
Which he should.
Yes, right. And despite his postseason performance in the regular season, he was really good. However, I do just want to take a quick second to, Greg, give Bobby Witt his flowers.
Yeah, it does not take away from the incredible season that Bobby Witt Jr. had.
Yeah, but I think this puts in perspective. All year long, we've been talking how good Bobby Witt Jr. is, and for Kansas Cityans that maybe don't follow the rest of baseball, Greg, this is an example. No, it wasn't just Royals fans looking through blue-colored glasses. Bobby Witt Jr. legitimately was this good and now has a finalist by his name.
Yeah, and you think they signed that deal with him at a good time? I mean, his price tag is only going up, and the Royals get him for a long time. What a season. Obviously the 30-30 mark, but we saw his defense every single game, it felt like. Postseason went a little cold, but that kind of
not as cold as Aaron Judge.
Not as cold as Aaron Judge. That's what happens oftentimes in the postseason. Good pitching tends to be good hitting. But man, he couldn't have been just a more needed player for the Royals to have a high draft pick that pans out, is a star. Not right away, because he did struggle a little bit out of the gate, but
24 years old. Yeah.
By the end of his first season, you could tell he was already going to be part of the team for a long time. And wow,
Yeah, it's 24 years old. His birthday's in June, so he'll still be that for a little bit. And as a result, because this was back under the Dayton Moore regime, but they did not play the service time game with Bobby Witt Jr. like so many teams do. They called him up. He debuted on opening day in 2021, if you remember, which, why did I bring that up, Greg? The Royals, because Bobby Witt Jr. finished top 3 in MVP voting, now have a sandwich draft pick at the end of the first round because of the rule changes to where Major League Baseball rewards teams for calling up their top prospects. If you call up someone to start on opening day that is like a top 100 prospect, and in their first 3 years they finish in the top 3 in MVP voting, you get a first-round draft pick. So, great example of Bobby Witt Jr. helping out the team on the ball club in the future. You mentioned it's great with his contract now, and all credit to Mr. Bobby Witt Jr. So, all right, now on to what everyone tuned in is here to listen to. The Missouri Tigers, Greg, and we'll get to Kansas as well. They're fourth up. Honestly, maybe even more impressive victory if you look at how Kansas has performed and what Iowa State is. But the better game, Greg, was the Oklahoma game in Columbia. Take me through your experience watching the second half and what you saw.
Well, the first half was a struggle, right?
Yeah, that's where I said
really low scoring. It did feel like Missouri should have put more points on the board in the first half, and that was going to happen in the second half. But again, you're dealing with a backup quarterback who had just thrown 3 interceptions against Alabama the week before, had struggled mightily in the first half against Oklahoma. And you didn't know how the game was going to end. You thought it might have to be a special teams or a defensive score kind of game. And then the fourth quarter hit, and all of a sudden points are being put up left and right. Specifically the last 4 minutes of the game.
41 points scored.
You could tell how much that win meant to Missouri and to the Missouri fan base. On the national scale, it doesn't look like a lot. It's an Oklahoma team, came in with 5 wins, not your typical Oklahoma team, especially not an Oklahoma team that Missouri fans remember when they were in the same conference. Yeah. But man, that's a huge program winner. They go head to head on so many recruits, especially out of the Kansas City area. There are obviously some transfers. Some of the coaching staff, even from Oklahoma, was at Missouri in the Barry Odom era. Their offensive coordinator specifically. So, that win meant a lot to the Missouri coaching staff, and you could really tell afterward. But what an atmosphere at Faurot.
Yes.
Just an incredible game. I mean, credit to Oklahoma for coming out and making it a game, because I don't think that fan base has a lot of hope for what that offense is trotting out on the field, and they had the lead with just minutes to go. But Mizzou stepped up in a big way, and credit to Drew Pine. Yeah, that was huge.
Yeah, I know. Excuse me. The fans. I'm glad you brought that up, because Greg, at the start of the year, we had this Mizzou-Oklahoma game really highlighted. It was a big game because, one, we thought Oklahoma would be probably better, and we thought I'm not surprised that Mizzou had the record they did going into the game, but the excitement surrounding the program wasn't as high as it was at the beginning of the year, based on how they played at Texas A&M and at Alabama, and how they struggled in a lot of other close games outside of that. So the excitement wasn't where I thought it was, and I'm really happy that everyone that still went out, was loud, into the game, didn't leave. It was still an awesome atmosphere, and they got their money's worth. And that was a hefty ticket. Greg, I don't know if you thought about going to that and looked at the prices and said, nope. But whatever people paid for that, I bet 99% of people say, yeah, it was worth it.
Oh, for sure.
And that's why you go to sports. That's why you root for teams. That's why you get your heart broken by teams for moments. And Greg, it's pretty interesting. That was the way Oklahoma lost is how Mizzou has lost
over and over. Yeah.
And if you look back, Eli Drinkwitz is now won 18 of the last 22 games, and a handful of those wins are games that Mizzou isn't used to winning.
In the last couple of years, Missouri has not lost a game like that.
Yeah.
They have won every game that comes down to the wire, like what happened on Saturday.
It's remarkable.
They won.
The K-State 61-yarder, the Florida 4th and 17. The Auburn wasn't really down to the wire, but a weird game. Your quarterback goes out like
Vanderbilt.
Right, the Vanderbilt that had all kinds of weird stuff.
Right, they've had close ones against
and this
South
one
Carolina,
for me,
Arkansas. Yep.
Greg, is right up there for one of the weirdest, though, because we talk about the Chiefs having the mental toughness. It's harder for a college kid to have the mental toughness, I think, just because they're not as experienced. They're maybe not as high level of an athlete or of a mindset as a professional. And for Mizzou to go through the swings that the last 3.5 minutes provided and still come out with a victory, the ebbs and flows, like if they lost that game, Greg, it would have been absolutely heartbreaking.
Yep.
And so for them to come through the way they did, I rank up there as one of the wilder games in recent history.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I'll speak for myself. I'm a Missouri fan. Sometimes it's been challenging, but I think from what I remember growing up, I can only remember Missouri beating Oklahoma twice. One was in 2011, and one was Saturday. And after experiencing losses, I was at Arrowhead in the Big 12 championship when Missouri got boat raced there.
Yeah.
But the year before, Missouri's number one and Oklahoma beats them.
Well, that's the big one.
There's a lot of animosity that Missouri fans have for Oklahoma and Bob Stoops, and that is not forgotten, regardless of how
Eli
different.
Drinkets brought it up in the game saying, "Where's Bob Stoops?"
Right, and regardless of how different this Oklahoma team is compared to those, it's Oklahoma. It's the OU. It's the Sooner coming into your place.
Yeah,
and Missouri got the
win.
It
It's
huge.
It was awesome. I didn't mean to pull out the Ryan Day "Where's Lou Holtz" part. Drinkwitz didn't do that. He just brought up because Bob Stoops has said they're used to beating Missouri, and Eli Drinkwitz said that's not the case anymore, yada, yada. But Drinkwitz was fired up, said, hey, this keeps him in the college football playoff conversation, which I think it does. It's still somewhat of a long shot, but if they win out, then they will at least be in the conversation. They'll need some help still to get in. And to your point,
a lot of help, yeah.
Right, yes, and unlikely help.
Right.
So that. But when we talk about the conversation, if Mizzou finishes 10-2, they will be in the top 15, top 20, and then
just think about that. I mean, not trying to get too ahead of ourselves here, because South Carolina might be a better team than Missouri, and
probably will be.
Brady Cook is still injured, but you're talking about a disappointing 10-2 season.
Well,
I mean, what kind of world are we living in?
And that's why I can't
go Missouri
that,
football, which is incredible.
I can't be that. If they go 10-2, I won't be that disappointed. I don't know. I have a lower bar for this program than a lot of my other Mizzou fans. 10-2, you won't. Do I wish they had done more with what they were given and the opportunity at hand? Obviously, but disappointed. I can't say that.
Right.
The final thing I do want to mention, Greg, because you with this game, you mentioned the OU rivalry. Shout out Theo Weiss, the former Sooner, for an incredible catch. He had 2 touchdowns.
Huge.
The first one, weaving through traffic, arguably just as big. That was on 3rd down. And then one of the best catches I think a Mizzou wide receiver has made in a while. He's a former Sooner that went through a lot. Luther Burden was a former Sooner commit who, Greg, had an incredible catch at the end of the game. And then Drew Pine, not a former Sooner, so unfortunately that's where the trend ends, but someone who also has been through a lot in his career, and I don't think he's that good of a quarterback, but he was good enough for a really big win, and so those are why you root for college kids that have gone through a lot to have those moments that they will. Drew Pine's going to remember that game for the rest of his life.
No question.
Theo Weiss will. Luther Burden, if he goes on to become Jerry Rice, I think he'll still probably remember this game, but maybe not on that same level.
Oh man, yeah. The end of the Theo Weiss catch on the final drive to tie it up on the 3rd down took it about 25-30 yards to put him around midfield.
And Caden Green, former Oklahoma center from Lee Summit North. That's I knew there was a third OU connection.
Williams Winery, obviously.
Right. No.
He might be playing for Mizzou in Norman pretty soon here.
Yeah.
And doesn't get a lot of playing time, but Yeah, I mean,
still good.
they fight over recruiting battles in this area and Oklahoma and Texas. You can be sure that Drinkwitz had that in the back of his head with his post-game comments.
And it's a big one for Eli Drinkwitz again, who keeps taking a lot of heat, a lot of criticism, but all he does is keep winning. So another win for a team that has taken a lot of criticism this year. Kansas upsets Iowa State, Greg. This game was start to finish the KU team that a lot of people thought we were getting. They looked really good, Greg, on offense, on defense. For the most part, I know the final score, but they were all after Iowa State's quarterback.
The score is way closer than the game was, in my opinion.
It was 21-7.
Yeah,
that was the
Kansas,
28-7, I think.
Kansas owned Iowa State. Their offense was in rhythm. Jalen Daniels looked about as good as he's had in the last few years.
Yeah,
Devin Neal obviously setting the all-time rushing record at Kansas, which is a huge accomplishment. And Luke Grimm, Quentin Skinner. I mean, that's a team that's the team that everyone thought we were going to see this year, and it finally came together. They're obviously still fighting for a bowl game, which for Kansas football is still a huge accomplishment. Especially with how they've played early, for the first part of this year. So. Still a lot to look forward to for Kansas. Obviously, a huge test coming up with BYU, but
still got Colorado as well. So they got chances.
Yeah.
They played spoiler against Iowa State. They got another chance. And Greg, what I was most happy to see, we talk about being happy for Mizzou guys. I was also happy for a local product from Lawrence like Devin Neal, a local product from Ray Peck like Luke Grimm, to win at Arrowhead, in a venue they grew up watching and going to and cheering for. They obviously have had success in that stadium, but ultimately didn't get the win. For them to have now a victory to say, hey, I won a game at Arrowhead Stadium, I think that's another really cool college moment. And for this KU program, not knowing what's ahead, for them to get a win that they can really feel good about and say, yeah, this is what we could have been. This is what we were, at least on one Saturday. I think is a cool local story. So
absolutely, and they'll get to those kids will get to be at Arrowhead against Deion Sanders and all that Colorado brings with it for their last home game. So I mean, you think you get to that's kind of cool. Close out your college career at Arrowhead Stadium. At least your final home game.
If they win that, that's an even bigger. But not knowing what that game will be, the fact that you now have this win in the bank, I think is
cool. And let's give a shout out to the real MVPs of the weekend. Was the Arrowhead Stadium field crew.
There you go.
That is impressive. 3 football games in 6 days.
Good point. The Bucks was short-term.
Monday night and then Sunday afternoon. So
and
job well done. Looks great on TV. I'm sure it didn't up close, but it looked good on TV.
No, I thought it did. KU wins in Kansas City at the football field. Then KU women's soccer also wins the Big 12 tournament championship at CPKC Stadium on Saturday. The same day, when you talk about field crews, Craig, the Kansas City Current won the first ever playoff match at CPKC Stadium Saturday morning, and then KU won the Big 12 title Saturday night. So great job to that field crew as well, and great job to the Kansas City Current. Tim Washawinga scored in the 8th minute, and that was all they needed. The rest of the day, they go on to win 1-0 over the NC Courage, and now they've got an uphill test on the road at Orlando. But for right now, this was an awesome victory.
Oh, huge. Looked like a great atmosphere, even with the weather being that
obviously
depressing.
I know that it wasn't a sold out crowd and not as big of a crowd as they would have liked, or as I would have liked, because this team has been
as we've become used to. Honestly, they sell out every game.
Exactly, and so that I wish it would have been different. Just have that, not knowing what the future holds, that I would have liked to have that awesome playoff moment. But if they go and take care of Orlando, I have a feeling the championship game is going to be sold out. So hopefully they can get to that point.
Yeah, I won't pretend to be a soccer expert on here, but
break it down.
But man, Shawinga, talk about giving everything you have. I mean, by the end, she was just crawling after every time she would get knocked down. You really hope she can, rest up as much as possible and be, semi-full strength because they'll need her for the semi. I mean, Orlando's no joke. That game that they played in Kansas City earlier this year.
Physical.
Very, very physical. But, yeah, Schwinga's arguably the best player in the NWSL, and
Golden Boot.
They will need her. They will need some scoring. They will need all of their depth. Should be a fun one.
It should be, and they well-earned spotlight for the Current. They've been great all year long, and I thought it was telling that we've known them for their attacking, but their defense shut out a good team. You know, they played really well in net as well, and you could tell the players really appreciated that moment and winning at CPKC Stadium. And a team that, remember, missed the playoffs last year. So the year before that, they were in the final, so kind of ups and downs. But this by no means was a guarantee with the first-year head coach in Vlatko Ananovsky. So great job to the Kansas City Current. Another storyline that we'll talk more and more about as the week goes on. But for now, I think KU, MU, K-State men's college basketball also all won this weekend. So whatever you root for, when you factor in now the Royals news, I guess Sporting Kansas City, they're enjoying their time off. But other than Greg, every local team had an awesome weekend. Local high school football slate was awesome on Friday night.
It's more fun to talk about winning teams than losing teams.
Yeah, which is kind of the norm around here. I don't know if I want to be doing this when everyone is being bad. You know, we'll see. So either way, shout out Greg Dailey, noted one of my favorite people here at KCTV5 for hanging out with us here on a Monday. We'll be back here tomorrow. Thanks for watching, everyone. James Shields, salute. I almost forgot that. That would have been a first.